Hello, welcome to Faith and Flavor. We hope that you're having just the best days. I know that this is again, we mentioned, we're getting up to the holiday, and a lot of people make it about the stuff and gifts and stuff, all that's fine. There, that's part of our human or our humanity
Right.
is to want to give. And part of our humanity is to receive gifts. Some people would rather give, some people would rather receive, and some would rather do both. And so I kind of love, like I like baking, guys, and I take gifts of bacon, but really, in the scheme of things, we love giving. We love being able to unfortunately, I guess, I don't know. The berries have had to be on the very receiving part these last year and a half, and it's been a very hard position to be in, but a very necessary
Right.
position.
And let me say something about that. What I tell people all the time, to me, everything's a full circle, okay? So if we're here and we're giving, right? Okay, we're giving, and all of a sudden we need receiving, that's okay. That's part of your journey, that's part of the seasons. And God says, look, you've given so much, so now I'm going to have you receive. And as you're blessed, you're going to come back around and you're going to be able to do that. And I had to tell, especially taking care of elderly people, it was always, I had one lady, she was taught never, ever, ever to receive anything. And so I had to, at the time, let her believe that at the time, my 10-year-old son was giving her something, and that was the only way she would take it,
Right.
And so, but God has different seasons in our life. So sometimes we can be the giver, sometimes we'll be the receiver, and that's okay too.
Right. Well, one of the things that I think is a blessing of being the receiver is, not just that the needs are met and stuff like that through some of the stuff, but it's watching the obedience of people knowing that God's going to bless them for their obedience
Right,
too.
right.
And it's also seeing the heart of the giver, because when you're in a position, like for me, I didn't expect myself to even be out of work for 5 months through a surgery, but that's where I was. And I didn't expect other things to take place that have taken place that we were going to be like, I don't really know what we're going to do. But God already had the answer.
Right.
He had already said, you know what? And we'll talk about Peter again today. I just want to kind of continue it from the last one because I know that we really didn't have the time we needed to really cover all the aspects of some of the things I've begun seeing with Peter. But even through the having to step out, like we've been in the position where we've had to step out of the boat. And when you're used to the safety of the boat, stepping out of the boat was a very hard thing to do, right? Fortunately for Peter, it was in that night and it was done with. Ours has been a season. But you know what? Even through the season, the hand of God was never far from us. It was never away from us. It was never not holding us. It was never not guiding us. The things that we can say, oh, what does a hand do? What does a hand do? Before we get into that, because this won't take long, but I don't know how long this segment's going to last, so I'm
Okay.
going to go ahead and get started, and then we'll get back to that. Just don't let me forget where I'm at, because I'm liable to sometimes. But anyhow, we just get these at the grocery store. They're just a couple of dollars. That comes in 6. I'm not really trying to advertise brands, but I will say that you can get these at most of your little grocery stores.
Just these
And
little graham crackers.
just little graham crackers already done. You can make your own, sure, whatever you want to do. If you can find these little aluminum
If you're
pans
like
to put them
me,
in.
you're going to buy them.
But I'm going to buy them because I can't buy a box, crush it up, and do all that for the
Right.
price that was paid for
Right.
these, right? But anyhow, we're going to make some s'mores. Like, it's cold. It's, who doesn't like s'mores, right? So I can guarantee you, Jacqueline, I probably are not going to eat these. So you're not going to see me take a bite of this at the end. But I'm going to pour in, and these are just semi-sweet. I like the semi-sweet
Okay.
if I'm using it because, well, it's got a little bit of the dark chocolate, which they say is better for you.
Right,
but
right.
who knows? I don't know that any chocolate chip's really that great for you. But we're just going to put in a few chocolate chips. I'm going to kind of like cover the bottom, I don't want like a ton of them. You can use a candy bar if you've got it. I just happen to have chocolate chips at the house, so that's why I'm using it. It's not anything written in stone. A lot of people use one little break off of a candy bar, but
Okay.
I don't care about that.
Because it's going to melt, so it doesn't
It's going to
matter.
melt.
Okay.
Exactly. And then I'm just taking the mini marshmallows because one big marshmallow is going to kind of be hard to put the top of the cookie on. And so
Oh, this is going to be amazing.
I really would love to take a bite of this, but I have a goal.
Maybe I'll take the
You,
bite for her.
you
What do
take,
think?
yeah, let me
I'll take-
live precariously through you, Miss Jacqueline. And so
Oh, my
all I've
goodness.
done was put the, I think this one needs one more.
Okay.
Well, maybe two. So all I've done is just kind of like put all your s'more guts on it,
Yep,
right?
Okay.
And then we're going to ramp it up a little bit, right? Because, well, that's what we do. And I've literally bought this at the store in the little squares, and I'm just going to place it right on top. And again, I've never done this, so we're learning with you, so hopefully it will be
So now
beautiful.
this is chocolate chip cookie dough?
Chocolate
right?
chip
Okay,
cookie
so-
dough. You can, and a lot of people, when I saw it, they actually use sugar cookie, but I mean, it's s'mores, right?
Right, okay.
You might as well.
I
do
guess
the
you could
chocolate
try any
chips.
kind of cookie dough on the top, right?
Yes. And it's probably going to spread out. So what I'm doing is just kind of making sure that I pinch it like inside so that it don't like flow all over.
You know what I'm also thinking is this is a blessing because this is stuff I wouldn't know about, and my family's coming in for Christmas, and so my grandson will think I'm pretty cool, right? If I do something like this.
Yes, absolutely.
This is so adorable.
And this was
Okay?
my little wax paper because I didn't want
Well, you
it to
know
stick
what?
on
You could
any-
even do it on this if you wanted to do it like the hearts or something. That'd be cool too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna put it in the air fryer.
So we're just going to drop it in and drop it in. The light's going to come on. We're going to say some prayers that it ain't falling all over, but if it does, it'll still be good. I've
So-
known to lick a pan once in a while. So I'm going to turn it on to 350
Okay.
and I'm going to set it for 5 minutes. I think it'll be probably,
Okay.
Yep. I think it'll be kind of toasty by then. It's 350.
350 in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Yep. That's what the guy did
Okay.
on the thing I saw. So
Okay.
we're going to hope and pray. And it's on and the light's on. So
Well, that's gonna be
I
awesome.
can't wait to see it. Anyhow, we're kind of set up in a different spot now. So we're just kind of like winging it.
Yeah.
So when you see me reach for my thing with my hands, I do try to let it cool down. I just didn't bring the gloves out here because we're not in our normal kitchen. So anyhow, talking about Peter, when we look at one of the most things that I really thought was really cool, and I'll read the some of the scripture to you, right? It says, "But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, 'Lord, save me.' And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him." And one of the things that I thought was really kind of cool with that thought is, if he had never got out of the boat, he would never be, in that moment, in all the fear and all the storm and all the stuff that was probably going on in his head, right? Oh my goodness, it's a spirit. If you be the Lord, bid me come. If that be you, because Jesus said, it's I, be not afraid, all of that. And really, it is I, be not afraid. In itself, I believe when Jesus speaks, it's kind of a command, right?
Right.
So I think this is Lisa 101, right? Chapter 1, verse 1. I believe that there was a part of him that had to recognize the command of the Father of, look, there's a lot of storm here. There's a lot going on. In the natural, you're right, it could destroy you. But in the spirit, hear me when I say, it's me. Don't be afraid. Come on out. Trust me because I have a plan. And that plan, in the end, when he began to see all the stuff, in that moment, Jesus reached out his hand and saved Peter, right, from sinking. What that tells me is, in myself, and what I believe, and what I saw, is that had he have never have heard, even if he had never even like looked around and became human, and in his humanity, Jesus reached out his hand. In that moment, he got to hold the hand of the Father.
Right. And it's always there for any of us, right?
Right.
The old saying, if something moves, wasn't Jesus because he was always there.
Right.
And if we stretch out our hand, he's there to receive it.
Yes. And comfort. So,
Yes.
if you see pictures of like dads and moms and they're taking family pictures and they're walking away, they're almost always holding hands. And I believe that especially children, holding the hand of somebody gives them safety and comfort and a connection. And when David and I were dating, we would hold hands, right? Of course, we say one of the worst things that happened to vehicles was putting the console in the middle,
Oh,
right?
that's true.
But we would hold hands, and that was a form of connection, right? And so Jesus, when he said, Lord, I sink, help, and Jesus just took his hand. And what really another thing that spoke to me is he walked back to the boat with Jesus. And when Jesus got in the boat, it says that the storm ceased and the winds ceased. And if we would realize, yes, there's a connection taking Jesus' hand, but the presence of the Lord is what brought peace to the storm.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if I was to take and hold your hand, there's a connection that we have now. And it's not just, even right now, I'm not putting on for the camera, even right now when I hold your hand, my heart automatically feels a love for you, And when we are connected, there's a connection that takes place, I believe, And I believe that when Jesus' hand took the hand of Peter and Peter took the hand, first of all, he knew who to call on in the middle of the storm. But he also knew that when Jesus held his hand, I believe, they walked back together. I don't think Jesus was dragging him through the water like, I don't believe that. I believe that when Jesus reached out his hand, he lifted him up on top of the water and walked back to the boat with Peter.
In an uplifting way,
yes,
right?
not in a you're sinking, let me do whatever I can to get you to the boat. I don't believe that.
No.
I believe that Peter began to walk on the water again with the Father, and when they got back to the boat, then they were able to experience the cease of the wind. But not only that, it influenced, I'm sure, I don't know that the Bible anywhere records it, I've never read it, that all the rest of the disciples really just automatically, I'm sure they knew, right? Because I'm sure they were influenced by it.
Right.
But you can't help but influence people when you begin to delight in the presence of the Lord, when you begin to recognize the presence of the Lord, when you begin to trust and rest in the presence of the Lord, and in the connection of the Father with the hand. Hands in the Bible mean a lot of things. It's work, right? You work with your hands. It's comforting,
Right.
It's when you wear a wedding ring, it's a sign of commitment to the one that you love and that you're with. Hands are far-reaching, even in the Bible when it talks about the reaching hand of God. It's a point of contact between heaven and earth, between heaven and earthly beings and people. I believe that all of that is a sign of what happened within Peter that day.
Right.
He knew the commitment of the Father to him because he reached his hand out. He knew the safety of the Father because he, I'm sure, quit sinking. He knew the presence of the Father because you can't hold somebody's hand and not know their presence, right?
And the cool thing, too, is when you reach out, the presence of your hand grasping, whether it's your neighbor, your spouse, whatever, it has an actual connection that goes to your heart.
That's right.
And you feel like you said something for somebody. That's why I love, the plaque I have that, marriage is three. And if you always have him in the middle and then surrounding, just like Peter had him surrounding, you'll feel that presence and the love of the Father. When you engulf that, you're able to give to other people that love as well. And that's just like, it was showing that how God gave that to all the ones in the boat, even though they will assume that they didn't really believe, not they didn't believe in God, but the fact that they didn't believe they could get out and do the same thing, but he still got in the boat and calmed their fears just like he did Peter.
Right. And really, if we even look down through like the crucifixion, Jesus's hands were nail scarred and hung on the cross. So the very hand that held Peter in the storm was the very hand that would drip blood for our salvation and for the atonement of our sin and the covering. But when we also realize that the blood of Christ has DNA, right? And if we are covered in the blood, we're covered in the same DNA of the Father.
Yes.
And if that's true, what's true of the DNA of the Father is what's true of our DNA. And if I look at the DNA of the Father, he's not sick. There's nothing in Jesus's DNA that made him a sick person. We don't read where he was. We do read where he was tried in all points, but he sinned not.
Right.
Because he had the DNA of. He was the begotten Son of God. He had the DNA of God, which made him of the blood and the line and the same as we are. If we are truly in the bloodline of the Father, we have privileges and rights from inheritance. That also means that genetics don't play a part either
Right. I understand.
of negative, right? Because Jesus didn't have negative genetics. And we could say, oh, that's, in the physical, but it's also in the spiritual. What I would call a genetic malfunction would be fear, would be doubt, would be, unbelief, would be whatever's contrary to the positive words of God. The devil came to kill, steal, and destroy. Jesus came to give life and life abundant. If it's not producing life, then what are we of? Are we of the DNA of the Father? Or are we now tapping into what really wasn't ours? The kill,
Right.
steal, and destroy.
Well, also what I've learned, and I know it's from your husband, Pastor Dave, was when he said, he brought out the fact that God is I am. So if God is I am, and I say I am sick, I am unworthy, I am whatever, then I'm saying God is as well.
Yeah.
Okay? And I used to love, I think it was, I know the books from a long time ago, God don't make junk.
Right.
So we have to realize that, like you said, we are part of his DNA and believe that, and like you said, there's always going to be ups and downs. There's always going to be roller coasters, okay? But if we can put him in the forefront, we wake up every morning and the old, thank God it's morning, not, oh God, it's morning, right?
Right.
And just to get up and just start your day that way. And to say, like we talked earlier, we're worthy. His hand is outstretched for ours to outstretch to him. And we too can be like Peter. We may not literally walk on water, but our life can revolve as if we're walking on water with have that much faith.
Right. If we, a lot of it, I believe, we have to change our mindset. And I say that a lot.
That is so true.
But it's so true. That's the reason why the Bible talks about, right? Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Put on the mind of Christ. All the scriptures about getting out of our mind, and sometimes my husband will say it, and I believe it was Bishop Huskins that would say it too, is I'm not out of my mind, I'm out of yours. Because sometimes people can't really comprehend what God has for that person, right? And even though, there would be denial in the future of Peter and the different things that he would, cutting off the soldier, he wasn't perfect.
Right.
But he was loved. And he's the one that recognized the voice of the Father, And so even with Peter, even when he cut off the soldier's ear, Jesus still picked up the ear and put it back on, He didn't have to suffer any legal repercussions because the ear was back, right? And so we don't have to suffer the repercussions of the kill, steal, and destroy when our DNA is of the Father of the Father, and our inheritance, we're joint heirs with Christ. We are entitled to all the things that he was entitled to through the blood of, through being the begotten Son of God, because we are joint heirs through salvation and through forgiveness and blood atonement as Jesus was. It's not that we're putting our place above him,
Correct,
but the
yeah.
Bible literally says you are joint heirs. So if we're joint heirs, we're equal.
Right.
So anyhow,
Okay, so-
look how yummy
oh
these
my
look.
goodness.
I'm going to have to I'm going to cut one open.
So all I'm going to say is,
Oh, look.
We
I'm not going to
yeah,
eat it. I'm going to be really good, but
yeah,
can you see
this
that?
is absolutely amazing. It's kind of that ooey gooey type of
Oh,
mouth-watering
yes.
dessert.
So
And I'll take Lisa's taste.
she can take mine.
Like
But-
I always say, jog in place while you're eating this. You're burning the calories as you're chewing,
Oh,
right?
that's true. I might do. I might. No, you guys have a great day on purpose. I hope we'll see you on Christmas Day. I think is the next one. So we hope that you have a great week coming up before Christmas and a great day on purpose.